Hey everybody, this is Tamir from Worldwide, and you're listening to the Worldwide podcast. This podcast is for entrepreneurs interested in growing globally. We'll be inspired by business, culture, and marketing experts that discuss ideas, challenges, that's the dog here also giving his opinion, and the stories behind the scenes of this journey. And this time I want to welcome Shiran, my girlfriend.
Hi.
Hey Shiran, how's it going?
Amazing. Happy to be here.
Great. So the purpose of our episode today is to speak a bit about our journey as a couple going from Israel to the United States and what it meant for us personally following the business objectives and the business goal of taking Adelante into the US market. And so maybe you could give us a bit of a background on yourself and maybe what you were doing before we set out to spend those couple of months in the US.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll be happy to share. First of all, I would say that I'm a very local person. I grew up in Israel my whole life. The biggest move I've made from the city I was born was only a couple of years ago with you. And that was also to a very nearby city. Yes, so when you were thinking of moving to the US, I was a student, right?
Yeah, you're just finishing your university degree.
I was just finishing my university degree, and I was also working as a teacher, a math teacher. I was not satisfied with my job, and I was thinking of a new career and looking for a new direction in my life. So in that way it was okay. It also helped me to look at it as an opportunity to think of what I want to do and explore my opportunities and maybe meet some new people, fresh ideas.
Let's start maybe with our relationship story. We've been together for almost 3 years and a half. And you're obviously a very family oriented, you're a family person.
That's right.
And I'm a bit less of a family person. And we met on the street actually in Tel Aviv one night after you were dancing salsa in a club. And I was riding a bicycle and we hit it off from there. So I was looking to spend a couple of months in the US and to see how it's going to impact the business and what would be the business results if I were to be in the target market versus being in Israel and just working with US customers. But for you, this happened for you at a very important crossroads in your life. You were just leaving university, you were leaving your job as a primary school teacher, and you were trying to figure out what you're going to do next. And you're also a YouTube creator. So you had this option also available for you. And so how were you feeling when we started discussing this and when we started thinking about moving to the US for a couple of months?
Yeah. I was totally scared because obviously at that point I think we were only 2 years together, which is quite nice, but I knew you very well and I trusted you and I wanted to continue this relationship, but it was still the beginning. And it's very not me to just leave the country and go to another place. It was definitely something led by you and something that I had to follow you and something that I had to trust you about. And at first I wasn't really sure that I'm ready for that kind of adventure. And I was also thinking if this is something that I really want to do and I really want to do with you, or is this just something that I have to and something that I'm forcing myself to do. So it took me a while and we discussed this a lot. And I think one of the things that really got me into this journey is actually a few things. First of all, I felt that you're really serious about it, and I felt like it's gonna be a real change in your business and what you're doing and your perspective, and I knew how much it meant for you. And I also felt that you're really serious about us and that you really want me to have a good time there and to find some things or a community or a work job or a hobby that I could do there and really find myself there. And so the combination of those things really helped me. And obviously also practically you were the one to plan everything and to take responsibility over even financially. So that was also something that helped me to decide that it's going to be a great opportunity also for myself and to really go for it.
And I think that kind of like the breakthrough we had together is when we labeled that as a mini relocation instead of, we're going to spend 4 months in the US and see what happens. How did this label, like a mini relocation, helped you personally to feel you're on board with this move?
Yeah, so I don't know if the listeners know, but you're a very traveler person. I know that you like to travel. We traveled a lot together, and this is also something that I'm not used to do by myself. I wouldn't just travel for a month or 2 or 3, and it's things we've done before this mini relocation. So at first when we talked about it, it didn't feel like completely something for the business, and more it's gonna be cool to work from the US, and I don't know, for me it's gonna be cool to also work from Tel Aviv. So I didn't really understand the meaning of it, and the labeling of a relocation made me realize that this is something really important for your perspective, for your development, and for you personally. So then I understood it's something different from every flight or every vacation we've done before.
And so how did this help you? When once we labeled that as a relocation, how did this help you face the difficulties and the challenges of going away for so long from your family, from your friends, from where you used to be? So how did this definition of a relocation help you?
It also helped me practically understand. First of all, when you talk about a relocation, then you understand what's going to happen. How can I explain? First of all, I could look up in some communities of women going with their husband or their partner to a relocation. And my mother also had a relocation with my father when I was a child. So this is something that also helped me to look at it as something normal, let's say, and not
this crazy boyfriend that wants to go to work from the WeWork in New York, and take you over the Atlantic for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. So it really put it inside a frame with people that I know that already been in that place and understand what are the steps. And then it also helped us as a couple understand how we're going to face this financially and how we're going to take this practically and who's going to lead where we're going to go and why we're going to go there and who's going to make those kinds of decisions and who is responsible for this to really work out. I think the definition just put things in place and helped me understand what we're going to face, and it wasn't just let's go and let's figure out what we're gonna do there. And I think also that thinking of it as a mini relocation and not a big relocation also helped it to be very focused and very serious and not let's go for 2 years and see what happens and let's go with the flow. And it really helped you, I think, really set some rules to what you want to see, what kind of results, who you want to meet, what you want to do, where you want to go. So I think that was also a part of this.
Yeah, so like you said, when we labeled that as a relocation, first that helped you explain it to the people around you and your family as to what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It also helped with the financial side because then it was very clear that anything we're spending because of that, like on top of what we would spend in Israel, on top of having like a short vacation, that's a business expense, so we accounted for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually made me build like a calendar of events, of meaningful events that I'm going to attend, things I'm going to achieve there. So there was a very clear plan for those few months and how do we make the most out of them instead of coming over and figuring it out and like you said, going with the flow. And that helped you come on board with this eventually.
Yeah, that's right.
So you spent some time when you were young, when you were 4 years old in the US. So before we actually arrived to the US, what were your impressions? What were you expecting to feel, to experience? What was your perception of the US before we actually got there?
As you said, when I was 4 years old, my whole family moved to the US, to Virginia. My brother and I and my parents. And I don't really remember that period of time as much as I remember my family really enjoying telling stories and remembering that period of time and really speaking good things about that time spent in the US. I think specifically in Israel there's a lot of pressure and tension and kind of vibe that you sometimes just need to relax from. And so they really had a great time going there. So as a kid, I remember a very good feeling of it. But actually growing up, when we visited there and when we traveled there for a few times, I remember that I didn't really enjoy the kind of energy and vibe. I really love Israel and the people and the warmth and the vibe and talking to people on the street. And I feel that the US is cold in that sense.
Distant.
Yeah, distant, and everyone has his personal space, and and even in the aspect of personal safety, I wasn't so sure. I don't know, you have these news about people shooting in the street and the grocery store. I don't know, Israel. It's
Which is a funny thing because everybody normalizes their own personal safety issues. So in Israel seems very safe aside from the occasional rocket or like terrorist attack, and the US doesn't have those stuff.
But it didn't change my perception on the lack of personal safety in the US. And also it's a very big place. Being in Virginia and being in New York and being in Texas is completely not the same thing. So I actually didn't really know what to expect, and yeah.
Yeah, so we first got to New York, and like you said, the U.S. is like a lot of people that are not from the U.S. might refer to it as a single country, but in reality, it's a lot of different countries under a single government. And so the first place we go to was New York.
Mhm.
And what were your first impressions of New York, of the US, the differences from Israel? What did you feel there?
So, like we expected, I think New York was a kind of smooth beginning, a smooth start, because it's not very different from Tel Aviv. It's a big city, and obviously, we've been there for a couple of times before, and it's very easy to move to get from place to place. It's very touristic. Everything is super comfortable and nice, and there's plenty of things to do. And in that sense, I didn't really feel like in America. I don't know, it was very similar to Tel Aviv, even in the sense of people from all over the world and a lot of tourists and many things to do and cool places everywhere. So I think it was a smart place to start with.
It's a big city. And
It's a big city.
a lot of the big cities are the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next place I've been to Philly for a couple of weeks, and you went back to Israel.
Okay.
I've been to Philly, and then we spent a few days in Las Vegas, and then we went to Austin in Texas. And what was your first impression of Texas in comparison to New York, in comparison to Israel, maybe?
Yeah, so Texas was more like what I expected when we were going to the US. It's a very big city. Geographically, it's just to go to the grocery store, you need the car, and to get anywhere, you can't really understand the size. It's not like New York that you get with the subway to everywhere.
Yeah, we were trying to walk one day, and we were walking for 20 minutes, and then we realized we wanted, like, the size of Austin, half of Austin is like the size of the center of Israel. And then we realized it's not very walkable, but until you experience that, it's very difficult to understand it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we got to New York, and what was your plan? We got there, I'm working most of the week, you're by yourself. What were you doing? How were you handling the time over there?
So it was very important for me to have a sort of a plan and to know what I'm going to do, because obviously you are busy most of the time. And I think that's a very important step when doing this as a couple, to make sure that you have something to do. So we put some time and energy to think what I'm gonna do already when we were here in Israel. And I think that our best idea was that I wanted to dance. I was a professional dancer for
15 years?
yeah, for 15
A few
years.
years.
Well, it was professionally like 4 years, let's say. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be a really cool idea to go on some retreat, or to join a company, or to do some project when I'm there. So I had a few options, and that was what I planned to do. But what happened is that on our first days there, I went to a Pilates class, and I actually hurt myself. I don't even remember.
Sprained your back.
Yeah, my back. Yeah. It was pretty annoying, and we had to change the plans. So.
But at least the dancing plan gave you confidence coming in that you have something to do, that you're going to find yourself there, and you're not just going to sit at home waiting for me to come back.
That's right. So it really gave me the confidence that I needed to go for it in the first place. But once we got there, I didn't really need it anymore. The change in plans wasn't so bad, and eventually there were two main things that I spent my time on. First of all, I had some work to do, a seminar that I had to do for my university degree, and I had to do some research and to read a lot of articles and blah 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 and write a lot. So that was the first thing. And the second thing, I knew we're gonna be there for only a month, and it went by so fast. So only from being a tourist in New York and one day going to see the Statue of Liberty, and the other day taking the subway to the island, I don't remember its name, and sitting in a coffee shop, then
some walking tours, you've done the subway walking tour.
Some walking tours, and it's really easy to spend time in New York. So I really needed the plan to get there, but once we were there, it felt very natural, and I found myself quickly. Yeah, I think the hardest thing for me was to stay in contact with my family and with my friends, and feeling like far away from them because I'm so used to being part of my family and friends. But that's natural, and I knew it's only for a month, and then I'm going back to Israel.
Yeah, so we'll get to the part of your family in a few moments, but
Okay.
yes, let's speak about. So New York was more of a touristic experience for you eventually,
Yeah.
and then you went back to Israel. You came back. You spent a few days in Philadelphia, and then a few days in Las Vegas when I was speaking in a conference. Also very, like, we only did the touristic stuff, so it's very like the standard things that people do in those places. And then we got to Austin.
Yeah.
And Austin was a time that you actually needed a plan, and you actually executed your plan.
Yeah.
So what were you doing in Austin, and how did the fact you had a plan there helped you spend time and feel good being there?
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to say about Las Vegas before I get to Austin, that while your conference was going on, that was actually not touristic. I really felt part of the journey because you let me really plan it together with you, and I was supposed to create your posters and everything, and also be part of your lecture and take photos and video everything. And I went with you together, so I felt part of it. And
you were my marketing girl there.
Yeah, that really helped me to reconnect to the purpose that we were going to. So I don't know, but if it's an opportunity to join your partner in some of the stuff or in the things you like while they're doing the move, the relocation, the change, then I think it's a great thing also for your friendship and also for the business. So that was the part I really enjoyed.
So maybe let's just clarify. I was giving a talk in a conference, and Shiran was there as like a field marketing role. She was taking pictures. She helped me set up the sign that I used in that conference for marketing. She helped me prepare for the talk. She helped me with the after talk, meeting with people, questions and answers, that kind of stuff. So it was really useful to have someone on board for that as well. And yeah, and so that was Las Vegas and Austin. So from there we flew to Austin.
Yeah, so that was a long while after I finished my seminar, finished all my duties to the university, and And I also finished everything I had to do with the school, and it was a point that I really wanted to get into some work or get into, I don't know,
routine.
Yeah, get into some routine. So I don't know even if it's being in Austin. It doesn't really matter if we were in Austin or back home. I would have needed to rethink and really decide on something that I want to put my energy into and create something. But the fact that we were there really took me out of my comfort zone and made me do something creative and by myself. And I think it pushed me into the right direction and to try something not new, but to try something I was working on for a while on the side, and I didn't really put my full energy into until that point. And that's my YouTube channel. So
maybe let's give some context. So Shiran has a YouTube channel in Israel in Hebrew. She's teaching math, and she has about 3,500 subscribers, Israeli kids on that YouTube channel. And yeah, so you're doing the YouTube channel for a couple of years as a side gig, and then you decided like a few weeks before Austin that you wanted to focus on that YouTube channel and see how far it can get you.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Austin was a good time to focus on that for you.
Yeah, I really had everything I needed, like a quiet place, and I had Amazon to deliver any kind of
photography equipment that you needed the next day delivery.
Yeah, exactly. And oh wow, if you have something to contribute to the conversation. Yeah, so yeah, it was really comfortable. I couldn't go work in any local places like I'm usual, or going to school, or going to, because we were on a visa.
Yeah, non-working visa.
Yeah. So, that was like a kick in the butt saying, come on, Shiran, you tried something, you started something, you have the time, you have the energy, you have everything you need to check if this is gonna work out, if something can happen from this thing. So yeah.
And so you actually used the time that you had no distractions, you didn't know anybody or almost anybody over there, and your friends and family were not there, and you had this YouTube channel had your undivided attention every day from when I left more or less until I came back. And so you got into the rhythm of creating videos and focusing on that project and seeing if it could be a successful project for you.
Yeah, I had a really nice routine. I really liked our life there. It felt really meaningful what I was doing, and I got to some really nice achievements when I was doing it like full time and with my full focus, something that I didn't let myself do when we were living in Israel and I had to work in a real job. So it was a really nice time to focus on a project that I always wanted to, but also always pushed aside and said, maybe it's not the time, maybe it's not a good idea right now, I would do it in a few years, maybe after this, after that. No, it was a really good opportunity to work on something of my own and something that I really wanted to do for a long time before.
Yeah, so maybe that's something to emphasize, that going away suddenly freed up a lot of your time and gave gave you permission to try
Yeah.
out new stuff because you're
It's
not
not-
supposed to be working right now?
It wasn't only the free time, it was also the free of judgment and the need to explain what I'm doing. And yeah, it was very clear. No, I think the distance, the physical distance, also let me explore what I want to do and what I want to focus on without needing to explain what am I doing, or what did I do today, or what am I working on, or what did I achieve today. Yeah, so it was very freeing actually.
Yeah, because it was pretty much only the two of us, and you didn't
Mhm.
have to meet with people and tell them, give them status updates. It happens a lot of the time when you're in your natural or standard environment.
Yeah.
And so let's use this maybe to jump into the relationships part, because that's obviously the part that was most difficult for you and most challenging for you. So maybe before you're speaking on about what you have done when we were in the States, maybe you can share how did you feel about being away from your family for such an extended period of time, and what were you feeling about this going into those couple of months?
Yeah, well, I know myself. As I expected, it wasn't great from that perspective. I like being close to my family. I like going there every week or every couple of weeks. So I know probably most of people hearing this, it sounds a lot. I don't know. For me, it doesn't sound enough. But it also gave me a perspective on 1 month or 1.5 months or 2 months. It's not such a long time to being a part of your family or the people that you love. And I think we also organized it in the first place in a way that I could also be with you, but then I could go back, and then I could go back to you, and then I can go back earlier, and there's a lot of ways to play with it.
Yeah, so you arrived with me to New York, we spent a month there, and then you went back for a couple of weeks for the Jewish holidays, and then you came back for the Las Vegas and Austin part. And so that was a good call in terms of giving you this break and getting you back with your family for the holidays. But while we were abroad and while we were in the States, how did you maintain those relationships with your family from a distance?
I think that something unexpected that happened was that my relationships with my family actually deepened when we were there. I think that sometimes when all the family meets together for a family dinner, and then the family jokes, and then you do like your family routine, then you don't have really the chance to have conversations one-on-one and to really deepen them. And something that happened when we were there is that I really had to talk on the phone with each and every one of them apart, and it takes time because it's not like you meet with everyone together and have your regular routine. And when you talk on the phone, you really need to share things that happen to you and to talk about things and to talk about what you're going through, and not just having the regular meal and the regular jokes and talking with everyone together. So yeah, I think that surprisingly something really good happened to my relationships when we were there.
Okay, so I think if we're looking at this in terms of first, what did we learn about each other in the process? So personally, I learned about you quite a lot. First, I learned about you that you're flexible and you're adaptive, and you can, when you see the goal and you understand the purpose of what I'm trying to achieve, then you really connected and felt committed to the cause and to the mission. So that was very helpful and was something that I learned about you and realized that we're actually doing this when you are committed. And so for me, that was very valuable. And also the fact that you went and came back really showed me how much of a family person you are, but then on the other side, how you're able to still be committed and still be in this for the long run, even if it takes a toll on you, and it definitely involves more difficulties going back and forth for a couple of weeks just to visit your family and come back to me. And then I think one memorable experience for me is when I picked you up from the airport when you came back, and we had this long drive and we stopped in like a roadside coffee shop, and you had your big coffee and the cheese steak of like the cheese sandwich of Philadelphia, and you were so excited to be back and be there with me, and I felt very very appreciative of that moment when it happened.
Yeah.
And so I guess over to you, and maybe how was this experience for you? What was maybe more memorable for you from those few months abroad?
Wow. So, first of all, I learned that changes could be quite nice. And yeah, I think that eventually I learned a lot about myself, about my business, about my goals, and what I really enjoy doing in my day-to-day life. So it was very fruitful on my personal side and on my personal growth.
So as we come to a closure of this interview, maybe let's summarize the key experiences and your highlights from that relocation. Mm-hmm. What would be the advice you would give to anybody doing this in the future as with their partner, and what would be some, let's say, your top tips for doing this kind of, even if it's a long relocation or a short relocation, doing it as successfully as possible?
Yeah. So, first of all, the thing that helped me the most at the beginning was understanding the mission and understanding what we're going into and why we're doing it. So, I think the first thing you really have to understand as a couple is if it's worth it and what do you really want to achieve and how is it really going to take the business and the relationship to the next step. The second thing is to plan, to have some sort of idea of what you're going to do there and how you're gonna spend your time and who you're going to talk to and what is your personal goal. So after knowing what you wanted to do there and why you want to go there and why it is important to you, I think it's important to also understand how I'm going to benefit from it and what am I going to achieve while we're there. Yeah, but while you plan, just keep in mind that plans can change and be ready for surprises and maybe have some backups. And even if you get bored sometimes or don't do anything, that's also okay. It's part of the journey. It's part of what this brings with it. So just be ready for the surprises and it's okay. Yeah, while we were there, I found myself bored sometimes or lonely sometimes, but I think the main thing is in our relationship that we were able to talk about the things and find solutions, and maybe like we had me going back to Israel and then going back to you, and being creative with the places that we chose, like Austin, that was very friendly, and like a lot of music and bars that we enjoyed going together.
Yeah, and I think also in terms of you were in the beginning very fixed on you having to be so close to your family and how this is going to be limiting for you in the sense of what you're able to support or how long you're going to be able to be away. But eventually, I guess you found your way and you found your methods to keep in touch, to still be in contact. We figured out the solutions, and you managed, I think, to have the both worlds. You were able to be abroad. You still managed to keep the relationship and even maybe deepen the relationship in a certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an unexpected result for this. I don't think you could have foreseen this being like the relationship part being I don't know if positive is the right word or the change in the relationship, but having a very different experience of your relationships versus how they happen or the type of relationships you have when you're in Israel with your family.
Yeah, that's completely true. That's what I meant by expect some surprises. Yeah, so although I was far away and I didn't see them as regularly as I'm used to, something really great happened to the relationship, and especially for myself as an individual. I had a lot of time for myself, and even being lonely, and even being not lonely, but even being alone and far away, and to find out what I really want to do and what I want to focus on was a very surprising and positive outcome of the journey.
I think that was actually one of the highlights, that you actually were able to start discovering yourself and what does it mean to be on your own, to make your own decisions.
I remember that one time when we were in New York, you flew somewhere to San Francisco. Yeah, for a few days, and then you came back. So I went to the grocery store, and it was the first time I went shopping for myself. And I really remember the moment, like choosing the vegetables and the fruits and everything that I want. And it was it was a very big change in my mind to choose things only for myself, and not thinking like, oh, Tamir likes this, or oh, he likes that. It was really like focusing on what kind of cheese I like, and what kind of vegetables I want, and what kind of spices I want to put in my food. Yeah, so in that way, I really felt like growing up and being myself.
Great. So let's end with this high note. And thank you very much, Shiran, for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for listening. And see you soon in the next episode. Bye.